It is time to bring in our Statehouse Insiders to talk about the upcoming presidential primary and last weekend's Democratic presidential primary. Our insiders tonight, Trav Robertson, the former state Democratic Party chair, Dave Wilson, who is in our nation's capital tonight outside the Supreme Court, and that is where we're going to start because earlier today the U.S. Supreme Court hearing arguments to keep the former president off the ballot in Colorado. I know, Dave, there was an effort made here in South Carolina to keep him off the ballot for the upcoming Republican presidential primary. That was not successful. You're in D.C. What are you hearing tonight?
Right now, the Supreme Court has finished up their hearing. They are looking at this case. Most likely, it is expected, after hearing what we have heard time and again from the various questions and the way that they were asked by the justices, that it is very unlikely that Donald Trump would have the 14th Amendment applied to his run for the presidency. So most likely what we're going to see from the Supreme Court is a very clear statement that this election is going to move forward and Donald Trump will most likely not be off the ballot.
Trav, what's your take on all of this?
Well, I mean, I think he's right. And make no mistake, I think that he's guilty of the crimes that have been alleged. But that's the key word. In this country, you have a presumption of innocence until you're proven guilty by a court of law. And I think the Supreme Court is more than likely going to have a difficult time throwing someone off the ballot who's not been convicted in a court of law.
Trav's got a point there, JR, that the reality is there is nothing but an indication that he has perhaps done something, but there is no conviction whatsoever. So you cannot say he committed treason in this particular case.
The former president's going to hold a rally here in South Carolina in Conway this weekend, 2 days before early voting begins. His chief opponent, former Governor Nikki Haley, says she's going to start a 2-week bus tour. Dave, do you see any way that she can close the numbers here in South Carolina between now and the primary?
It's been very interesting to see how the numbers have played themselves out over the last few weeks. The gap is still there. Nikki Haley has got to come within about 10 points to have any level of real sustainability beyond Super Tuesday. Can she be able to do that? Good possibility that she could close the gap. Is she going to be able to absolutely get within that single digit? It's most likely not going to happen, but we'll see. We've never counted Nikki Haley out. If you go back to 2010,
exactly
remember
right.
She was the 5th person in a 4-man race and won within 36 days. It's going to be very interesting to see how that plays out.
And I can assure you, I've watched Nikki Haley as I ran Vincent Shaheen's campaign in 2010, where we almost pulled off the surprise of the night. And Dave's right. Don't ever count her out. I mean, right now, I have received more text messages from Nikki Haley's campaign as a former chairman of the Democratic Party asking me to vote in the Republican primary. I think that's a bridge too far for most Democrats, but we'll see. At the end of the day, this is Donald Trump's Republican Party. He's molded it and branded it. And I do think Nikki Haley, while she was on point in the beginning of this, talking about Donald Trump's age, Joe Biden's age, but at the end of the day, people have overwhelmingly voted for Joe Biden, and they're overwhelmingly voting for Donald Trump. So our message may be wrong. The American people may very well want this rematch.
If that's the case, then, JR, I think what you're going to see with Nikki Haley is whether or not she starts getting more money and more money coming in. Money is going to be the key factor to keep Nikki Haley's chances alive. Keep in mind, in the last 48 hours, she brought in nearly $2 million. Right. That's not a small haul when you're talking about presidential politics, because that buys people on the ground, and that's the sort of thing that you have to keep in mind when you're looking at an election like this, and especially in her home state of South Carolina.
And I think the caveat to that is that we saw the week before last where the Koch brothers decided they were going to pull out and they were going to start focusing on the United States Senate races. That was a tremendous hit for her campaign. She spent a significant amount of time down in Palm Beach, Florida, trying to get donors together to coalesce to make sure she gets to Super Tuesday. And I think that's the real question everybody's asking. What is the end goal of her campaign? Is it to have a Liz Cheney moment? Is it to be seen as the future after Trump departs the political world? I don't know the answer to that, and I think that she's the only one who does.
And Trav, looking back to last weekend, no surprise with the outcome, with President Biden winning handily here in South Carolina, but the voter turnout left a lot to be desired, didn't it?
Well, I think it's not about voter turnout. I think when you're really looking at it, most people, J.R. Berry, don't ask about voter turnout. They ask about the percentages. I mean, that's the thing. He won with 97% here. There wasn't a primary in New Hampshire, and he won with 90 some odd percent there. It's the percentages of the vote. But let's be very clear. It is always the circumstance in South Carolina that when you have an incumbent president running, that the turnout is going to fall off. It happened in 2008, where we had 500,000 some odd voters. In 2020, we had almost 540,000 voters, 35,000 votes shy of surpassing the aggregate number of people that voted in Iowa, Nevada, and New Hampshire, and 3,000 or 4,000 votes more than 2008. It's a cyclical nature, and anybody who tries to sell it any other way doesn't. You've got two candidates running for president on the Republican side. That's where turnout's going to be.
And JR, Trav's right on that one. You're looking at probably 6, 7, 8 times the voter turnout on the Republican side. The estimates are somewhere between 750,000 and 1 million people are going to be voting in the Republican primary on February the 24th. Folks at home, what that means for you is this: if you did not vote in the Democratic primary, you're one of about 3.3 million South Carolinians who are registered to vote, who can show up to vote on February 24th. That's an important responsibility that you as a viewer and a voter have.
And I mean, I think you're looking probably at no less than 450 to 550,000 people will participate in the Republican primary. And you see that swing based on the contest in each primary. That's just the nature of our body politic in South Carolina. And it's one of the things that makes us a very unique state to campaign in.
All right. Yep. Dave Wilson and Trav Robertson, our insiders tonight. Guys, thank you so very much for your input. For all things politics, anytime, go to our website. That's WLTX.com. We're back.